Hello. We are here for the penultimate episode of In Conversation with an Expert. Can you believe it? We're fast approaching the end of this season. So don't worry, we will be back in a few weeks' time. So I've got next week is the final episode of this season, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks from there with the next season. But for tonight, I'm so excited for this conversation for many reasons. And one of them is that I get to have yet another friend join me here this evening for a conversation that I think is going to be so valid to you for your dating journey, because we are going to be speaking about how you can start to approach your dating life, your love life as an epic adventure. And there is no one more qualified to speak about this than my friend Michelle Ellison, who is an avid, intentional adventurer. And I use the word intentionally, and we will explore that more here tonight. So I can see that she's joined. So hopefully I can add Michelle to our conversation now. Hello Caroline, hello Isuru, lovely to have you with us here tonight. So hey
Auntie.
How are you doing, Michelle?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. Of course, we were planning on having this conversation. It was going to be in June or something like that, but the powers that be thought, well, okay, Richie hasn't been feeling very well this week, so sending him all my love for a really speedy recovery. But it worked out in that you were available sooner than planned, which I'm so excited for, because I think what we're going to discuss tonight is going to be so relevant to the fearless dating community. And all of our conversations, right? We've spoken about it before, where every conversation you and I have, we always leave energized and excited, and we always have something where we've got an idea of something that we want to do, a challenge that we want to set ourselves, just something that we are ready to really dive into, no matter how much it scares us. So I really love how we embrace our fearlessness together. So I'm so happy to have you here, and we've got lots of people joining us, which is really cool. Hi to GP Everyday Adventurer. I think who have we got here saying hi to you? Jed Statsy.
That's Jed. Hi, Jed.
Hello, Jed. Oh, fellow adventurer who was with
Hi,
us
Glenn.
in Snowdon.
And we've got Glenn who's just joined as well.
Hello,
Hi,
Glenn. So many cool people here. Well, this is going to be an excellent conversation. I can feel it in my bones. So let's dive straight into it, Michelle. So firstly, share with us all here, why adventure? You and adventure, why is it such a significant part of your life, and how did it come into your life?
Yeah, that's adventure is it's such a good question, Artie. I would say that I've only become adventurous in my definition of adventurous in the last kind of 5 or 6 years, and that came about. So my day job is I work in HR. I live in London, or not during COVID times, but normal times I'm a Londoner, and I had a great life. I go to work, come home, plan my holidays, my city breaks and weeks away, and it was okay. I was okay. I was content, I'd say. There was nothing crazy going on in my world. And I think when I look at it, there's 2 things that happened that kind of tipped me into the adventurous space. The first is I had my boss one Christmas ask all of us around the table, what is the one thing that you're really proud about and that you've done this year? And, Artie, I felt sick. I didn't have an answer. It's like, how could I have lived a whole year and not have that one thing that just comes straight to the top of my mind? Like, if you dig deep, I knew there was some things there, but not at the top of my mind. So that happened. And I was like, wow, I don't want to let another year go by. When I allow that to happen, life is too short. I know that we say that, but really. And then the second was working in a college with amazing role models all around me. And in 2012, the year of the Olympics, which was crazy amazing in London, which was epic for all those reasons. But 4 people that I really looked up to got diagnosed with terminal illnesses. I was like, wow, again, life is too short, that real reminder. And so I asked myself, questions are great, right? Asking ourselves questions is so powerful. So the question I asked myself was, what is the thing I've always wanted to do? And that was to go backpacking around South America. And at the time of 32, I thought I was too old. I should be doing all of the other things that life tells you, getting promotions and settling down and buying a house and all of that. And I was like, wow, no, the last year has taught me I might not make it to that long, like, retirement age to do the stuff that I've always wanted to do. So let's just do it now. And 9 months later, I was leaving Heathrow Airport, so nervous, so scared. Talk about fear, so fearful of what I was getting myself into. And I thought I'd be alone for the next like 7 months or so that I took off work. And that was completely untrue. And that set me on a world of adventure from then, realizing that what we put in our heads is really important. And that can stop you, or it can also take you to some amazing places. So
Yeah, it's so beautiful, because the reason why when I wrote about this conversation that we're going to have and I introduced you was I wanted to say that you are an intentional adventurer, and perhaps because I've got a bit of a sneak peek into your thought process, and I'm sure all adventures are intentional, but
yeah,
the adventures you choose for yourself seem to be about so much more than you
yeah,
on the adventure.
yeah,
There's that connection to service. There's that connection to a bigger purpose outside of yourself, which I think is the key to an adventure being a success, regardless of whether you meet the end goal or whatever it
yeah,
is, right?
yeah.
So can you share with us a bit of what adventure, and especially intentional adventure, means to you?
Yeah, I think so. The word adventure, I think, can kind of trip people up because they can say, "Oh, well, I'm not adventurous." So I would just say to anyone thinking that, what's adventure for you? It's what's your definition of adventure. So where you are now, if you stepped outside your comfort zone, took a step out, maybe not like a little dip, but like putting that foot fully out on the other side of that comfort zone, that to me is an adventure. You're creating something that's different in your world, that's challenging, something you might be scared of or fearful of or, uncomfortable with. But there's going to be something great on the other side, usually waiting for you. So I would say that would be the way I'd frame what an adventure is. And so for me, it is specifically about challenging my body and what I think I'm capable of in terms of my mind. And so what I've ended up doing since coming back from South America is I love people, and so I love also seeing other people go through that space as well of getting outside their comfort zone, but also doing it with purpose. So having a reason, for why you're doing something, and that's led me to create some. And that wasn't intentional at the beginning, but it's led me to intentionally create some journeys. So, for example, my first big one was wanting to paddleboard the length of the River Thames from source to sea. So I initially thought that would take me like 2 days. I didn't realize quite how long it was or how slow I would be in paddling, but no, it's quite significant, 330k. And so me and my friend, we did that together, but we didn't want to just do it to have fun. We wanted to have fun and to challenge ourselves, but it was like we can do some good here as well. There was a project going on around the quality of the river with Thames 21. And so we signed up and decided to collect some water samples for that journey. They were doing a lot of testing about the quality of the river, and we were in a perfect position to be able to do that testing. And that's called citizen science, where all of us can contribute to science by collecting data that help make decisions in terms of making some positive change. So from there, it kind of gave me the itch of actually, it feels great to do something myself. So I didn't think Mel and I, when we paddled the length of the Thames, it's like, could we do it? We weren't sure. We did it. We felt amazing afterwards. Our bodies were exhausted, but it also showed us that when you do something that's for somebody else in that space as well, oh my goodness, the reward is just feels so much greater. And it's becomes a little bit addictive then, that feeling, you know. It's like going out for a walk. We know what it's like in lockdown when we're stuck inside. And as soon as you step outside, it's like, oh, that feels so great, you know. And so it's that same sort of feeling. And that's now led on to some bigger journeys, but also now also deliberately creating journeys specifically for others to join. So for last year, for example, when we could hang out together over summer, walking the length of the Jurassic Coast and bringing people with me on 2 separate trips. I cut it into two journeys, 4 days each, and bringing people who hadn't walked that distance before or been on that sort of journey before. And it was brilliant and challenging and so rewarding for so many ways, you know. So there's different ways of doing things with purpose that are really connecting.
Definitely. And there's something about that trip on the Jurassic Coast that I definitely want us to refer back to, because I think that is the key to our conversation here, and something that I think will have a real impact on everyone that's joining us either live or watching this on the replay. So I'm going to put a pin in that, but I just want to go back to 2 things that you shared there. So firstly, around the adventure part, like your definition of adventure, really, really important, because when I am coaching my clients or they're going through the profile makeover with me, this thing comes up a lot where, you know, in profiles, you'll have seen it as well, like, I'm an adventurer, I love travel, I'm really funny, I'm this, I'm that. But actually, it's not giving us any insight into who you really are, because as you know, Michelle, your version and interpretation of adventure can be very different to mine. So actually, to explore that question of what does adventure mean to me can then open up this whole world of possibility to you in terms of how you can experience adventure, where, with whom, all of that. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that is an integral piece to actually dating fearlessly as well. Making sure that you are clear on your definitions when you say things like, I am adventurous, I love to travel, I am playful, I'm confident, whatever it is. Like, don't just describe these things to us, but actually demonstrate them. Like, how have you been adventurous? How do you feel that you're playful? That's so, so important. And that feeds into then the intentionality of what you're able to create, right?
Yeah. And also not to be put off by when someone says, I'm adventurous. And then you go, oh, but I'm not. But because it's, you know, not for their language to scare you off either. Because then that's a great question to explore. Well, how are you adventurous? Like, tell me more about that. So that's another way. Don't let your head think that's not me without exploring and asking some questions around it, I think.
So true, because we all have these images that get conjured up straight away, like, oh, they must be jumping out of planes every other weekend or something like that, right? Well,
climbing Mount Everest. Like, I don't want to climb Mount Everest. I don't want to be that kind of adventurer.
Yeah, exactly. So to ask the questions of what they mean as well, 100% agree with that. So then when it comes to the planning of your adventure, right? So this, again, I feel is really, really key, because this is another really big part of fearless dating, where we do not start any journey without setting an intention first, right? This is key, because essentially this is the thing that is going to act as our North Star when things get difficult, right? If we're like, I tend to veer towards the nautical when I speak about this, but you know, when the waters of your dating adventure get a bit choppy, because we know that they are going to get choppy, right? At some points it's going to be smooth sailing. At some points it's going to test you. It's going to throw you around a little bit. But the thing that keeps you on course, keeps you steering in the right direction, is that intention. It is the thing that acts as your North Star. And I think that's so important for everyone to know, whatever adventure you're going on, like, to have a strong intention that is bigger than you, right? As you said, because when we're setting intentions, it can sometimes be like, oh, well, by the end of this year, I'd really like to be in a relationship with this kind of person, and that I'm sorry, it's not going to get you through. Right? It needs to be something that excites you, that drives you, right? So could you speak to that a bit more in terms of setting the intention for your adventure?
Totally. And within that as well, being really specific. Because if it's general, what is that? When your life gets busy, how do you stay on focus with that? So an example of a journey, so I can describe a journey that helped with the intention, and then what happens because of it. So I decided this was one of the hardest things, well, it is the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life, in terms of my body and my mind. I decided to support a really important petition around mental health, and they were collecting signatures in terms of improving A&E care for those who are feeling suicidal. And I decided that in order to help them reach 10,000 signatures, so there was my why, really clear, right? My why, really understand what that is, that I was going to run across the width of the UK. Over 17 days. I'm not a runner for any. So again, it's it's what you can then set as a clear intention. So it was to make it to the other side of the UK, and along the way talk to as many wonderful human beings as humanly possible, and to collect signatures and to reach 10,000. So then the government would have to respond to this really important petition. I couldn't even believe it didn't exist in the first place in terms of best practice for mental health. So when life gets hard, as we all know, life gets hard, you firstly know what you're aiming towards. So beforehand, I knew how to that I need to start training. You start thinking about, well, so what do you need for that adventure to be successful? So who are the people, who are the team that you're going to have around you? I love the quote where it says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who is it that you need? So you need people who believe in you. If I shared that idea with friends who thought I was ridiculous, well, they could think I'm ridiculous, but think that it wasn't possible, after a while, that's going to start to affect my thoughts and whether I think it's possible, whether it is achievable. So surrounding myself by people and asking for help in terms of what I need, because we all don't have the tools that we need for everything. We need to seek help. We need to get our thoughts out of our head and have conversations with people. So for me, it was setting up the team. It was putting in steps, the plan in place, so what was the route that I was going to take? Where was I going to sleep? What was I going to eat? And also what's going to happen to my body along the way? So then how do I help prepare that? Who could I call if there's an issue, in terms of medical support? And just then in terms of social media as well, how do we start sharing the journey? How do we involve people, through social media as well in that? And I guess that all relates to dating, doesn't it? There's so many parallels here, and we'll come back to the Jurassic Coast, I know, but it's about being really clear on what you want. And do you know what? And I can tell you that journey, oh my goodness, on day 3, I was in so much pain, and I just thought, oh my God, I'm going to be so embarrassed. I've told my world what I'm doing, and I've still got, 15 days to go, 14 days to go, and I might not make it. And what will that feel like? What happens if I have to pull out tomorrow? And so it became being clear on what I was intending to accomplish, the why, but also scaling it right back and going, just what's one thing that I can do right now? And that was literally, physically, put one foot in front of the other. Yeah. Like move that body, run, walk, whatever it took to go forward. And as long as I could do that, then I was going somewhere. I was getting closer to the other side of the UK. And then of course it's doing the things that along the way that we know we need to do as well. So I like, eat well and talk to my friend. Luckily I found another crazy human who wanted to do the journey with me, so I had a partner in crime, and it meant having a hug every 3 miles, or him telling me that Michelle, when was the last time you popped a Nurofen for that swollen knee and foot, or feet in the end it became. So someone to look out for you and encourage you, and that in terms of then the coaching relationship as well, there's a complete parallel there too. But not giving up, when it gets hard, it's gonna get hard. Life, we know that life gets hard, but on the other side of hard is amazing.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the thing, like there is every chance you've set this intention, you have this goal to get to the other side of the UK within X number of days, but there's every chance, because as you said, life happens, that you might not get to the end. But are you going to let that stop you? Or are you going to do as much as you possibly can in that moment, which is to get one foot in front of the other, to have that 3 mile hug, whatever it is, to still make sure that no matter where it ends, it is still a significant and important journey in your life. Like that is key, because and I try and really press the importance of this with fearless dating all the time to my clients in everything that I put out, that for so many of us we've become so focused on what a lot of people refer to, and a client of mine used to refer to as the end game. Like when I get into that relationship, then everything is good. It's all then it's been worthwhile, right? When I get to that mountaintop, then it's worthwhile. But actually, no, what about the steps that you take along the way? Because on your walk from from one coast to the other, one side of the UK to the other, or like when we were climbing Snowdon, right? It wasn't a case of, okay, let's just get to the top and so we can wave those flags and celebrate. But those moments where we looked to the side and we took in the views, or we're getting knocked about by the wind and the rain in our face, right? Or we sat down to have our soggy sandwiches or whatever it was. But every single step was so significant and so monumental that actually when we did get to the top of that mountain, it was even sweeter.
Oh, definitely. And also, do you know what? I just have to share something around mountains, Artie. So I also love mountains, and that's one of my passions. And I've been fortunate to climb a lot in Europe, especially nowadays. It makes me just feel so grateful that I was able to so freely travel to Europe. So after a period of 2.5 years of climbing a lot of mountains, I then thought, I need to go and learn how to climb them properly. So I did a course after all of that and took myself to Wales for a week, joined some amazing humans, and learning how to navigate mountains and kind of, how to survive basically if something goes wrong. And the crazy thing is, so in that 5 days, every day in the morning we'd be in the classroom, and in the afternoon we'd be on a mountain. And it was in the Snowdon area as well. And on the first day, our guide and instructor and the teacher, he said, so today we're going to go to this point. And I was like, oh, aren't we going to the top of the mountain? And he said, oh no, we probably won't get to the top all week. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I was like, oh, this is a ridiculous course. What else are we doing on a mountain? The point of the mountain is to get to the top, isn't it? So anyway, of course I had to listen because I'm on a course and I'm there to learn and pass. And you know what I enjoyed? And after the first day, I was like, okay, you can go out and have the most beautiful day. And we probably didn't even get anywhere near like halfway up this mountain, but we explored everything around like the lower part of the mountain. And so like the foliage, he was really big about foliage. The foliage he was pointing out and the types of rocks and, all the mountain kind of chat. But it was stuff that I'd seen it, of course, but I hadn't connected with you. And it sounds ridiculous, I know, but I'd never connected with you can go out for a beautiful day out and not have to get to the top. Mm. So it was all about then that cliche, enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And yes, you can get to the top, and when you do, oh, it can be an amazing feeling, but it also can be awful. You can go, oh, I just want to quickly get down the other side,
Yeah.
because it's been so hard to get to the top, you know, especially if we're
Or the
thinking like,
toilets are closed at the top.
yeah,
Knocking them.
or the cafe,
Yeah.
or, you know, like it's not what you expect at the top. And you're like, I don't want this top like that. Like, I wanted it, I had this whole vision of what it was going to be like it was when we went up Snowdon.
Yeah.
The cafe was not open. And so we had to huddle and be frozen outside. And it's not what we were hoping or expecting. So, but actually, because we'd enjoyed all the steps beforehand, it didn't matter, you know? And so
remember, the
again,
sun came out on the way down, and the views were epic as
they
well.
were.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true. That's the thing, because we can look, as we're dating, we can look at these people that we're meeting and not necessarily matching with, as almost like an inconvenience. Oh God, well, I've just wasted time there with that person. But actually, no, what did you learn from this person? What did you learn from this interaction? What did you learn about yourself as a result of going on that date? And what has it then created and enabled for you to do on your next step and the next step after that?
Yeah, totally. And do you know what? And my friend laughs at me when I say this, but all of those interactions are a gift.
Yes.
So every time that somebody you get to meet and you have a conversation, and let's say it was, you know, a date, a first date, a second date, a fifth date, and then there's an ending, you know, it's not going to go any further. They've given you a gift somewhere in there, and you can find that gift. So whether it was just enjoying someone's company and getting to explore something new, hearing their world, or making it realize something about yourself that you didn't know, you know, you take that learning, and you can't, I mean, you'd never want to give that back.
No.
And so it might be a bit painful afterwards, of course, if there is a rejection and it feels, you know, you've made it mean something, you know, that can hurt. That's not great. But on the other side of that, what's the gift? Because then there's no, I don't know, upset, anger. The kind of negative emotions aren't attached to it in the same way.
Every adventure includes a bit of pain, right?
Yeah. I mean, COVID's been an adventure for all of us. How much pain has been there in there, but I can tell you, there's so many gifts that COVID has given me that I'm grateful for. I know it's caused a lot of pain for a lot of people, and you know, we would never have wished that on anybody, but actually through it, we've had to go through it. We can't take that back, but there are some gifts. And so when you see life like that, then that means when you see those people who are on an adventure with you, or that are coming the other way, whatever your adventure is, then they're going to be part of your story, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this sets us up really well to then dive into your Jurassic Coast adventure specifically. And for all of you that are watching, I really want Mel, you're not Mel.
She's my mate.
Michelle, to share with us this specific analogy and journey that she shared with this group about how to prepare for this adventure, because it wasn't just for it was inspired by Jurassic Coast, right? But you shared it with you shared it with this group of singles that you were going to really intentionally go on this dating adventure together, right? And you shared it in terms of what you learned on the Jurassic course. So please share with us that. Oh, it's so beautiful.
I will. And so for anyone who's listening who the Jurassic Coast, if you've not been on let's say a 5-day walking journey, or 4-day walking journey, which is what I'm going to describe to you right now, think of it in terms of you going on holiday. So when you go and travel, so when I'm talking about a backpack, think about your suitcase. When I'm talking about strangers on Jurassic Coast, think about strangers you meet when you've been on your holidays. And let's see, because, you know, just in terms of it being relatable. So we're coming to the end of 2020, and I know that for a lot of people who are single, it's been a hard year. It was a hard year in terms of getting to meet new people, date, You know, especially if you have an intention, the goal of wanting to be in a relationship. COVID kind of wasn't great for supporting that goal, was it, for a lot of us? And what I'm also really aware of is what it feels like to come into a new year. So come into the new year, and people set in kind of intentions, or what's the word, Artie? Resolutions, New Year's resolutions, which I'm not a fan of.
I'm not
but
either. We're not
I
fans.
know they exist. I know there's a feeling, right? We step from one year into another year. And what I didn't want was for people in my life who were single to leave 2020 feeling like like that their dating story was going to be, oh, well, I haven't gone on a date since 2019 or January 2020. So I was like, we've got an opportunity. At the time, it was October, just coming into October. I'd already walked the Jurassic Coast over in August with some friends. And so I put the call out on Facebook. I was like, if you're single, I got a plan for us. Message me. I didn't want to give it away on Facebook. You know, I think there needs to be a little bit of intrigue. And everyone who's in a relationship, they don't need to know this. And so I had about 20 people message me, men and women. And I said, okay, we're going to go on a journey together. And that journey is going to start right now as us as a team. Because you need a team on every adventure, don't you? On any journey you go on. It's more fun when you do it with others. So we became each other's cheerleaders. And so the goal was, the intention, we're all on the journey, so that by the 1st of December 2020, we would have been on one date. In whatever means, Zoom, FaceTime, outside social distancing with a coffee, whatever your version of that would be. And so that's the intention. And so we created a WhatsApp group, and I was like, okay, a lot of story feels like around the world of dating. Oh, I've already tried that. Oh, swiping, I don't like swiping. Oh, I've tried those apps. Yeah. Or they ghost me, or it doesn't work, or I had a really bad, everyone's got a bad experience to share. And it can be really off-putting about your intention of wanting to be with a person. Well, how do you do that? You know, the how. And so I think then the best way to do that is to reframe it. Let's change the language. So I was like, team, all of that is not allowed in this space. None of that language. Like, whatever your stories are from before, gone. Let's just leave it behind. Let's create a new one. So the new story is, we're going to walk the Jurassic Coast together. And it just so happens to be that the end of it is a date, hopefully, potentially. And let's frame it that, you know, so what is it that we need? So there's a lot of parallels, you know. So what do you need? You need to do the preparation first. So what does preparation mean in terms of this? Well, for Jurassic Coast, it means packing your bag, having your bag. You know, if you're sleeping while camping for 4 days, you're going to need some stuff. If you only put your sleeping bag in your backpack to walk for 4 days, you're going to have problems. You know, if you're only relying on that one thing, you're not going to have a great trip. And so then when you put that into the dating world, so if we're only relying on, I don't know, what, Hinge or Bumble or that one thing, how successful are we really going to be, you know? We'd probably be more successful and have more fun and have more adventure, putting more things into our dating backpack like you do when you're on the Jurassic Coast. You know, on Jurassic Coast, you don't really just stick in things there that are important to keep you alive, you know, food, water. You also stick some things in there that are fun, you know, to have a good laugh at. So my friend, he carried a barbecue for 4 days on his back.
As you do.
As you do. Now, I mean, I have to say this barbecue is like the size of a small, thick, like thin book, which just folds out. It's like a beautifully designed barbecue for anyone who wants to have a barbecue that fits in your backpack. He carried it for 4 days, but it was amazing because we set up our camp at night on the beach and lit a fire and had a bonfire and had great food and, you know. So again, in the dating world, what's the fun stuff you can put in? Now, I can't give you the answers to that. Everyone will have their own answer. Everyone filled their backpack very differently. So that's the start of the journey. Now, let's imagine then we're walking for 4 days on this beautiful coastline. And the other great thing then about it is that there's other humans along the way. So we're trying to get to the end point, but we're going to meet new people along the way. And they're usually walking toward us or walking past us, you know, if they're going faster. And so what do we do as humans? We say hi, or we might smile and give that kind of look. And and so how does that relate to dating? Well, we're going to meet people that we can just say hi to. So on the Jurassic Coast, when you say hi and they say hi and you say goodbye, it doesn't mean anything. You're like, oh, that was a really lovely interaction, or that was a nice human, or wasn't that conversation really lovely? It could have lasted for 10 minutes. And then we said goodbye. And then you're like, oh, what lovely people. And then you might have a chat about it and you continue on your journey because you know the Jurassic Coast has still got another 4 days to go. Or they might join you for half a day, which is even better. You get to meet a stranger for half a day. And then they decide that actually they're going to stop there or their journey is going to take them somewhere else. So how does that relate into the dating world? Well, with the 20 of us who are going on this journey together, when we swipe, when we, message, however we communicate with people that we're meeting, if they decide to stop communicating with us, it's okay. You had a lovely interaction, you met someone new, and it's not about you. It's not, if they decide not to communicate with you anymore, that's all right. It doesn't mean anything. Just like when someone leaves you on the Jurassic Coast, it didn't mean anything. It was just for a moment in time, a gift. You got to meet somebody new, and you may have learned something in that space. And so what else can I tell you, Artie? So kind of going along then that journey, and then also knowing, okay, so you're taking 4 people along the trip. I can actually say this happened on both of my trips, and I promise this is not about my guiding skills. It was Zoom feet. So we had, none of us have really worn proper shoes for like a year. And so we had people actually on the journey who got severe blisters that had wore their shoes multiple times, but because they hadn't worn them in over 6-9 months, they really suffered. And also carrying like 10-15 kgs on their back, a lot of pressure. And so unfortunately, they didn't make it to the end with us. So we had one person who had to end up getting a train and going home. Another person decided on the second trip that they were going to take a day off. They're going to catch the bus and catch up at the kind of towards the end.
Nice.
So again, how does that relate to dating? Not all of us get to finish together.
Yeah.
We've all got our different paths. So the lovely human who came with me who caught the train home, the path still exists. He'll go back. I know he'll go back because he'll want to finish it. But it just won't be with us, and that's okay. But he will just take his own time, and maybe it'll be this summer. For the person who stops for a little bit and gets off on the bus, or catches the bus and catches up, that's great too. He took his own journey, and just how beautiful that is. Then when we as humans with each other can be compassionate toward that. And say, that's okay, I still love you, we still want to see you. We were, for the one who went on the train, we were messaging him pictures of what we were getting up to. We were sharing each other's stories, and he was sharing his comfort of his bed and his ice cream and all of that. But we, while we were suffering, not having a comfortable bed to sleep in, that kind of thing. So we're still sharing the journey together, but we're now on a slightly different path. And we'll end up somewhere in the future that will end up completing it. But just with that intention not to be upset if it doesn't happen that first time.
Yeah.
And because we don't know.
Exactly.
We can't predict it. Like, adventure is, you can never plan for this stuff. You can plan so much, but as you know, life changes. Life happens. Life happens to you. Life happens to people around you. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Just means that our path is different, right?
Exactly. And that's so important to remember as you date, because we've experienced it ourselves. I know countless clients and people that I speak to experience it, where there's this sense of pressure, like everyone around me is married or coupled up or starting to have a family or this or that, and what does that mean for me, and what does that mean for me, when will I get there, but it is this thing that you just shared here of all of us in our own time when it's right for us. And we may have been walking alongside someone for a while, and hey, they may have met someone on their journey and decided to start a more committed relationship, get married, and okay, they're still essentially walking by your side, but on a slightly different path, right? They've taken a different adventure to you, but they're still there. and you still carry on, you still do what you need to do, you know. And as we said before, if you need to, every adventure, you need to have a bit of a rest as well. So as you're on
Totally.
that journey, it's okay at times to recognize that you just need to have a bit of a moment just to rest and recuperate so that you have enough energy to keep going in the end,
Yeah.
right? Some of us are like full steam ahead, you know, I'm going
Yeah.
to run as fast as I can, I'm going to climb as fast as I can, I'm going to paddle as fast as I can, but then good luck actually getting to the
Oh,
end
it
destination.
sounds tiring, doesn't it? Like that's
It is.
where's the joy and the fun in that? Oh
Exactly,
gosh.
exactly. Whereas, hang on, okay, this is my intention. This is I want to get there roughly around this time, but I'm aware that other things can happen and may delay me, may supercharge me as well. And actually, this is a really great point because whenever I start coaching one of my clients, or whenever they go on this tryout journey with me, I always think of what we're doing together as we're building what I like to think of as a treasure island adventure map, right?
Amazing.
So there's this blank map ahead of us. We are where we are right now. We put on the map through our conversation and exploration where
Yes.
we want to be, right? We want to go
Yeah.
there and we want to go there, and this is like where X marks the spot and all of that. But like all good adventures, there are going to be booby traps and wonky
Mm-hmm.
bridges, right? So
Mm-hmm.
okay, where could they potentially crop up? And we may not know where they'll crop up, but how can we best preempt them and prepare for them? So again, that backpack analogy of like, what are we going
Totally.
to have in there, right? What are we going to have in this backpack of ours up
Yeah.
here that helps us deal with that booby trap, that wonky bridge? But also, like any adventure, we may find a shortcut. There may
Mm-hmm.
be that the oracle on the corner that gives us some secret that no one else
Mm-hmm.
has of how to go through some kind of, I don't know, magic forest or whatever it is to land to get to wherever it is that we want to be that much sooner as well. And this is part of the coaching journey. It's about building this map, and the more conversation that we have, the more intention that we have around what we want to create, the richer and more detailed this map has the opportunity to become. But what also we are afforded in building this map and having these places that we want to go to is we also have the opportunity to kind of think, well, what is it about that place that I want to reach that is so appealing to me, and how can I essentially extract parts of that so that I can experience it in where I am right now, but on the journey as well, right? So
Definitely.
so important, right?
Yeah.
Of as you said earlier about where do we just kind of stop to take a look at the foliage and to have some conversation and to look at that, you know, appreciate that sunset or that sunrise, so that sense of adventure or sense of accomplishment that we think that we're going to get when we reach the end goal,
Yeah.
we actually get to experience that now, and that is an
Yeah.
adventurous life. That is a life, you know,
Yeah.
lived, well lived, and a fulfilling life and a meaningful life. So I
Yeah.
think there's so many parallels here, and I'm so glad you shared that analogy with everyone here, because I think if you can keep that in your mind as you date, as you choose to date fearlessly, it will totally shift your relationship to how you choose to approach this. And you know, there's a few things actually within what you said. So if we just go back to, say, the setting of the
Yeah.
adventure, right, the setting of the intention for the adventure, communicating it to others. So yes, you have that intention within yourself. But I remember so specifically us sat in that cafe, that coffee shop round the
Yes.
corner, where you shared with me the adventure of walking from one side of the UK to the other, and exactly why you were doing it and how
Yeah.
you pictured those numbers as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so crucial. And I remember how excited I became for you, and how it made so much sense that you would choose that as your adventure and as
Mm.
your goal. And so that's what we get to experience when we share our intention with
Yeah.
someone, that they get to be excited on our behalf. they get to hold that intention in their heart with us. They might not be with us on the actual adventure itself, but they're holding it for you. So how important has the communication of your adventure been in your ability to go on the adventure?
I could not do it without communicating it at all. Because I think the first one is a chicken out. Let's just say, you know, for anyone who doesn't like running so much, that's me, or was me. So if I'd had this thought in my head about running, you know, across the UK, and I didn't tell anyone, I wouldn't know how to do it firstly. I'd know generally, but the specifics I wouldn't have, you know, received help from. I wouldn't have people going, Michelle, how are you getting on with that? And me being excited and being able to share it back. Or me being able to go, oh, I'm really stuck with this. This has happened and I don't know quite what to do. Or even where to sleep, right? If I didn't tell anyone, I had strangers offering me a bed to stay. So I would literally run to their house, knock on the door and hope that it was the right house and have, you know, and so it just really opens up the journey of being able to do it, make it possible. I just really don't understand how we can do anything, dating, adventure, life, if we leave it in our head. How would we get a new job if we didn't say, I want a new job and I want to apply, I'm applying for that job and I'm going for that interview. Everything happens out of our head. Keep it in and nothing happens, you know? So I think that's, and not to be fearful of it. I think, you know, we can be fearful of sharing because the thing that I guess would stop me of being, you know, able to share that is fear of judgment. People going, oh, you couldn't do that, knowing that I couldn't run. Fear of failing. But I've told everyone this is what I want. What happens if it doesn't happen, you know? Or something out of my control happening that means that it can't happen. And does that mean that people will think I'm ridiculous or that they can't trust what I say? All of that story of that stuff, you know, which is real. Those are real fears. But we can listen to it and it can stop us. And just having the picture right now of your treasure map there, Artie, means that we're on the X of the star X. It means then if we listen to that fear, we wouldn't stick that one foot in front of the other. And regardless of, yes, there's the end point, but what would we then miss out on experiencing before we even get there if we just stay standing still?
Yeah.
And that then takes me back to that moment in 2012. If I'd stayed still and not answered that question and not addressed, oh my gosh, I'm not sure about how life is right now. I want it to be different, I think. What would that be? Oh, I feel very sad for her back then if that's what she decided. And I'm glad that I didn't do that, you know. We're always grateful, I think. We're really good, I think, Artie, of looking in front and going, oh, but I don't have that. I haven't got it yet. I haven't got there yet. But if we look back and see the journey we've been, like what was that treasure map that you've already discovered so far? Wow. For all of us, it's amazing. I don't think there'd be anyone on this call or anyone that I would know that would look back and go, oh, that wasn't a very interesting journey. I didn't learn much.
Totally. And we have that opportunity for that to then be created in our future if we don't stop, if we choose not to give in. Because that's the thing, when you have those questions pop up about what if this or what if that, some of those questions are actually valid questions to ask in order to prepare. What if I don't finish? What am I going to do? What's my contingency plan? How am I going to prepare for that eventuality? So sometimes we try and stifle those questions and ignore them and be like, well, I just don't want to act as if they exist. But actually, what are the useful questions that are popping up there that will help you prepare that much more, that will allow you to enjoy the journey that much more and progress to that finish line, whatever that may be. So there's some validity in some of those questions, and we have to just allow ourselves to interact with them to the degree that they don't prevent us, right? They don't become that stopper for us. And so when you do communicate this intention outside of yourself, one of the big things is that it becomes very real, doesn't it? It becomes so
Totally.
real, so
Totally.
real. So what do you do in those moments? Because we've both had these moments, right, where we've set challenges for ourselves and we're like, yes, we're gonna do this. This feels like a great idea in the moment because all the endorphins are rushing around the body and
Yeah.
adrenaline's pumping, and then there's that moment of like, oh shit, what have I done? What's your response to the oh shit moment?
Oh, breathe. You make me want to do it just now thinking about that. I can feel my body is telling me something when it's like that. It reacts. It's like, oh no, you don't want to do that. So it's breathing and pausing and just focusing back on why do I want to do this? Because that makes it all really clear. And I think once you know that why, yes, all those things still exist, all those questions still exist, all of that noise of like the kind of concern and the worry and the fear still exists, but you can then start to see a way through it, or ask yourself some more questions, like you say, the questions that are really the disempowering ones, the ones that potentially might stop you. But if you address the disempowering questions, they actually become quite empowering. Because then you can make a choice. So it's when you recognize it, you can then make a choice, and you can go, well, do I choose to listen to you? Fear. So I had a fear of being run over. When I ran across the UK, there's no footpaths and all there. There was no perfect route to get yourself from one side to the other. And I know a lot of the roads in the UK are really windy. And I would be running on these, and cars would not expect two people running toward them. And so there's a real fear of being run over, like death. Death is not okay. Yeah. Everything else before that, better. Not injury, but everything but death is okay. So yeah, that's a real fear. I want to address that. Like you say, let's have a conversation. How do we then make this the safest possible journey? What road, when I get to a crossroad, and there are many crossroads that I got to, where I was expecting, say, to go left and go onto an A road, quickly learnt that those were not fun and the cars drove faster. But the B road was going to take me longer. And when you've run 30 miles and that end of the day and the sun's going down, and this was a choice that we had to make, we thought, well, it's either that's going to be on the A road, scary, deathy, and also not enjoyable because we can't talk to each other. We're going to have to concentrate a lot to stay safe and to be flagging the cars so they can see us. Or we take the B road, which is going to take twice as long at the end of our day when our bodies are so tired, when we really just want dinner and a hot shower. And it's going to be dark, so we might, there's another added bit of danger there, the darkness. Which route do you take? And in that decision, we decided, which I can't believe we did, took the slower route, the one that was going to take longer. But actually it was safer because we listened to that. So it's about recognizing and listening and going, what are my options? We always have an option, whether we think so or not. But it's about being present to it, I think, for me, and what that is.
That's such an important point of just recognizing that there are choice points along the journey. There are always choice points. Are you going to interact with them long enough and deep enough to actually then make the best choice for you? And the point that you make about the fears around the A road and the B road and all of that, there are going to be fears that we encounter on our dating adventure. And I don't call fearless dating because it's about the absence of fear. Hell no. As we know, in some situations, that would be a dangerous and stupid thing to do, to ignore fear, because it is there to keep us alive, keep us safe. Sometimes there are some fears that just maybe are overreacting to a certain situation. So when we're about to go on that date, when we're about to pick up the phone to that person that we've been messaging, and we get clammy palms and our heart starts racing. And in my case, where I used to be really scared of meeting someone for a date because I used to think, well, what are they going to think about the way that I looked? Especially if I was wearing something that I really wanted to wear, but perhaps revealed just how skinny I actually was. And for me, I would have so many moments where I'd be pacing around before a date, encountering that fear of I don't want to go on this date because what are they going to say about me? How are they going to react to me? But actually in that moment, it was acknowledging fear's presence and saying, I see you there. I get why you're there as well because of past experience, because of what I've been informed with so far. But you know what? In order for me to take that next step, for me to go that much further on my adventure, for me to have some kind of result, I need to interact with fear. I need to recognize you're there and then do what I need to do anyway, right?
Yeah.
And that's the choice point. That's the
Yeah.
significant choice point, and we always have that.
Yeah.
And then the fears start to have an opportunity to subside, right, in relation to that specific thing. So actually then when you're on the B road, yes, it's going to take a bit longer, but man, does this feel so much better.
Ah,
Man, am I
best
enjoying
best
this.
decision ever. That's
Right.
what it was.
Yes.
Best decision ever.
Like we can have a
yeah,
conversation. We can hear each
yeah.
other. We're
And look
safe.
at that, and look, we can stop and just watch that sunset and enjoy it, you know? Um, and it's that kind of, and I guess actually a question for you, Artie. So going on that date and then feeling all that, like what do you feel then once you've been and like, and come out the other side of that adventure, you know, having come home from that date, what does that feeling feel like?
That it feels accomplished because I'm like, yeah, I did it. And do you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And I got to meet this great guy. And you know, there's one very specific date that sticks in my mind because I was wearing this black bodycon dress which just hugs. There's no getting away
Amazing.
from what type of figure you have when you wear a dress
Yeah.
like that, right? So I
Lucky
remember,
man.
thank you. I remember thinking at that point, okay, well, like he's seen me now. He's making his decisions, and that's cool. As I am making decisions about him. And the funny thing was, I think I was about 33 at that point, and he was 25. He was like way younger than I was actually expecting him to be. I was like, oh my God. And we were actually not very compatible in that sense, but we had a good time together. We
Yeah.
enjoyed the date and we were happy to go our own separate ways. And the thing is, I wouldn't have that result. I wouldn't have that knowledge and that insight had I chosen to give into that fear of it feels so damn uncomfortable in this dress. It feels so damn uncomfortable thinking that he's going to have some kind of negative reaction towards me. Well, I wouldn't have had that experience. I wouldn't have this story to tell. I wouldn't have this inform what now has become my work, right?
Yeah.
And that has really shaped then what my dating adventure could then become after that, and what gave me more clarity about what I want and what I don't want. So it informed my intention. So you're always improving. Each iteration is an improvement, right?
Yeah.
If you interact in this way, it's so important. So important.
What I see with that is, I think, two things. Is one is in terms of comfort zone, what I mentioned at the beginning of stepping out. So for me, whenever I do something like that, or, you know, now that I've run a long way, I know I can run a long way. It means that my Google history, you know, Google, like whenever I type something into Google, it knows what I'm about to type because I've typed something similar before. And so the same thing is with this. The next time I go to do something crazy adventure-y, or I know the next time you put yourself in a beautiful black hugging bodycon outfit, you're going to remember what it was like last time.
Yeah.
And hopefully there may have been some stuff that didn't go quite right with it, but you would have learned. But also you know that you survived, and actually there was some fun in there. There was, because you did it. You came out of that experience, and there was something that you got.
Yeah.
And so it's the next time, not only does your comfort zone grow, like I see it, like you start from a small ball and it just becomes like the size of the universe, you know, the potential for our comfort zone to be so massive and have some really, what we used to think were scary things in it, now just be like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh, I can do that.
Yeah, 100%. I remember the day that when I was in Spain at that retreat, and I just jumped on this challenge to do 1,000 squats in one day. Now, I had
Oh my
not
God.
done, I had not done more than 5 squats in my whole life by that point. And I had no prior template to call upon for whether this was possible for me or not. But actually, the 1,000 was there as a goal. I had the support team, you know, me and my friend Paul were doing this together. And actually, okay, well, chunking it down, you know, the chunking down of the adventure, the having the rest breaks in there, very, very important. And just knowing how we're going to approach this was really, really important for it. And hey, do you know what? I didn't get to 1,000 because also at that point I was prioritizing my sleep, and we were about 11:15, and I knew that I still had a hell of a lot of adventure to do for the next few days. I was like, you know what? I'm happy. Like, given that I've not done more than 5 squats in my whole life prior to this point, I got to 700, right? I got to 700. My legs felt like lead, but I felt accomplished. I felt like now it's literally in our physiology, you know, when we choose, and we're not talking about just physical adventures here, but like, for example, what I shared there about me choosing to go on a date with that person in that dress, it then embeds into our psychology and our physiology that is possible because we've interacted with that rush of adrenaline, you know, in that moment. We then are creating a blueprint for what we can do next, what then becomes possible after that. So these are the possibilities that are available to us when we set ourselves a challenge in this way, when it's done with true intention and a deep, deep why. And we've done the preparation, the Jurassic Coast preparation, right? Of checking our mindset, our baggage, all of that along the way. And actually what you shared there about the interactions that you have on the way, really, really important that as well, because the quality of the interaction that you will have had on all of your adventures, right? Because they've all involved meeting other people, which is the beauty of adventure, right? Now, something that happens when we're dating, which doesn't happen, I think, in any other area of our lives, but it needs to be addressed, right? is that people have this tendency, if they're dating online, for example, if they're putting together their profile, if they're chatting with someone online, or if they're at a singles event, they have this feeling that they need to find out as much as they possibly can about this person and their life, everything they possibly can, and tell them everything they possibly can about themselves in order to discern whether this is a meaningful connection that needs to be that can be sort of taken beyond this moment that we're in now. Now, that doesn't happen on adventure, does it?
No, goodness, it's made me think when another trip I did over the summer, I cycled from Poole to Brighton, which is over 3 days. Again, I took some awesome friends with me, a couple who had never done that kind of journey before. And we met somebody who was also on a bike, but he was traveling on his own. And he asked if he could join us. And we said yes. We ended up cycling with him for a day and a half. And gosh, you can imagine that if you bombarded that person who joined us for a day and a half with the kind of questions that you're talking about, he would have been scared off in the first 10 minutes. But also it wouldn't have been authentic. You know, in terms of building a relationship, we didn't invite him in the first 5 minutes to cycle with us for a day and a half. We cycled for a bit. We cycled for a bit more. He was keeping up the same pace. We were enjoying the conversation. We had lunch. And then we actually said goodbye, and he went off his own way. But then the next morning we bumped into each other again as a group. There was 6 of us, including him. And we continued on because we got on well, and it was authentic. And I think that's not rushing a relationship with the man who we just met on his cycle. I mean, imagine.
And that's it, because it was about something more in that moment. It was about connecting with this person in front of you, as opposed to going in with some kind of agenda, which so many of us do when we're meeting someone, when we're dating, and actually what happens to the depth and the quality of connection. What adventure can you have with this person when it becomes about something more than the actual like finding out the really mundane stuff that you will find out as the adventure unfolds and progresses itself, but in that moment, what's the most meaningful thing that you can speak about or connect over, and see what becomes of that. So I think, that's a really, really important point for all of us who are dating, and all of you fearless daters who are watching this, where don't rush that initial connection. Actually focus on that word of what does connection mean, like what am I trying to create with someone here. And that is a depth of authentic, honest conversation where something has the opportunity to be revealed to you, as opposed to I've got to
share everything, or I've got to find out everything. But also just in terms of how you question, so it's being curious, being curious in somebody. The same thing when we met this guy for the first 10 minutes. If we had talked to him only about the weather, there's no connection that would have been created there. And there is a great thing about meeting a stranger. You can ask questions that you wouldn't normally ask your friends potentially. You end up having conversations you wouldn't have normally because you think it's not going to go much further, or you're exploring something new. And so there's an opportunity there, and that can be beautiful, but it's also not forced, It's not asking them for the 20 questions game within the first 10 minutes. So it's getting to have a meaningful conversation, but letting it evolve and seeing what it turns into. That can be really beautiful.
Definitely. And, you mentioned it there, the curiosity, and that's a big thing I always say to fearless daters: become supremely curious about yourself, become supremely curious about your date, and become supremely curious about your connection as well. Like, what can I find out? What can we co-create together? So important. And that's what makes it an exciting adventure that you can potentially go on with someone. And just as we said, your personal adventure, your dating adventure, has the opportunity to just be meaningful regardless of what happens there, because you've learned so much about yourself, you've learned so much about another human being, you've learned so much about your dynamic together, but then just as a whole, how does that dynamic shape the adventure you are going on, and wherever it is that you end up. So this is so important. Thank you so much, Michelle, for having this conversation with me.
Thank you.
I hope you've all enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it, Michelle.
I love always speaking with you, Ashley. We do have the best conversations, and I love talking about adventure and the parallel to the rest of our lives. I think in all of the journeys we take, whether it's a dating journey, an adventurous journey, a job journey, there's parallels to everything, and it all starts with a conversation and creating a team and having that vision of something amazing you want to have happen in your life. Like, that's what's exciting.
Completely. And to think that's how our friendship began, right? All those years ago, it was over the connecting with people in this group, right? That I had never been to before. I'd met you there for the first time. And there was strong intention in that space as well. We had the intention to live our legends, right? Whatever that meant for each and every one of us. So again, proving that all of our adventures were very different, but we were in it together. We were this team together, and years later, here we are. We're still connecting, we're still conversing, we're still supporting each other on our adventures, even though they look wildly different from each other as well. That's what's even more beautiful, because we've always got so much to bring to our conversations. We've always got so much to explore together, and ways of being able to support each other. So I'm so glad that, I'm extremely proud of our friendship. I think we've spoken about friendship a lot in the last few months, especially, and I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful for your presence in my life, and what we've been able to co-create together through our curiosity and our adventure, and long may it continue. And I think, everyone had so much here to sink their teeth into. If you didn't catch the conversation in full, this replay will be available on my Instagram channel. So please do give it a watch. Make some notes, especially about that Jurassic Coast preparation. Note that down. How can you apply that to your love life, to your dating life? And man, will it change what you're able to create as a result. I think it's just so beautiful what could become possible for you. So give that a go. And I don't want Michelle to go without her sharing with us her amazing project that she's working on right now. So for all of you adventurers out there, listen carefully.
Thank you. And actually, firstly, can I just share before I do that, just how lovely it's been having this opportunity to speak with you, Artie, and for anyone who's going on their next dating adventure, Jurassic Coast, stuff in your backpack with all the fun stuff that you need on the journey. Please share with me as well. Like, I know you'll be connecting with Artie, but I would love to hear and connect with you about what adventurous fun you have in your next kind of dating challenge and what you're aiming for. Because remember, sharing makes things happen. Yes. So just the more that we share with each other and are cheerleaders for each other, like some really great stuff can show up. And so I guess in terms of me sharing then what's happening in my world, my next adventure, well, one of my many next adventures, through the power of conversation, I learned about a product that exists in the US only. And it's for women, or for anyone who, this is going to sound weird, but bear with me, anyone who squats when they pee. I did say that. And it doesn't exist. It's called a cooler cloth. And it doesn't exist here in the UK. And as you know, actually, for many people going into the outdoor environment, there's lots of barriers. So there's a barrier of, am I good enough? I don't know how to, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to wear. And one of them for women can be around hygiene when we're out and there's no toilet facilities and we are using the trees, nature. We're wild peeing people. We're wild peeing. And so there is a cloth called a cooler cloth. And so my business is that I'm bringing that over from the US to make it available for all of us here in the UK. And so for anybody who's interested, they're beautifully designed, they're super hygienic, and no smell. Don't worry about the smell. Sits on the outside of your backpack. I'm even thinking it'd be great for festivals as well. Yes. We all know, women, what it's like in festivals and the facilities. And just link onto my website. I'm sure Artie will share the details. Oh, wow. And I launched the business on the 3rd of April over Easter. Exciting. So I'm so close. So close. So it'll be just in time for all of us to get out into the outdoors when we're outside of lockdown.
When we're released into the wild.
When we're released into the wild and we can go wild pee everywhere again.
So brilliant.
I know it's amazing, but ridiculous. But thank you. It's really exciting. And also that's just another journey. Starting your own business. Oh my goodness. Wow.
What an adventure.
What an adventure in itself. So lots of things that I'm sticking you in my backpack for that one.
Oh. Well, please, everyone that's watching, please give Michelle a follow. If that cooler cloth is of interest to you as well, make sure you follow Michelle's adventure online, and I will make sure I link your website in the descriptions here as well, so everyone can follow you there, and to just stay in touch with you, because you're always adventuring. And as I said, this is intentional adventure. So to just hear the reasons why Michelle chooses to go on adventures is just beautiful. So beautiful. You learn so much just from your intention alone. So please do give Michelle a follow. I think you'll learn so much from just being in your world, which I certainly have. And thank you so much for that. So thank you everyone that took part and joined us. And we had some comments and some dinosaurs for the Jurassic Coast.
Amazing.
It's cool. And just as a reminder, if you would like to go on a fearless dating adventure with me, the next program begins in May, and I'm doing the tryouts now. So this is the preparatory part where we start to build the treasure map for where is it that you are now, where do you want to be, what are you struggling with. So if you would like to have that no fee coaching call with me, then just send me a direct message and we can find out exactly what can have you starting to date fearlessly, and whether the Fearless Dating Group Coaching Program can help you on your dating adventure as well. So I'd love to hear from you. And yes, more adventures for us all, please.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I love that we got to see each other and spend this evening with each other. And I'm going to try and get you on the podcast as well when that's up and running again. And we can continue this conversation. But until then, thank you everyone that joined us, and speak to you all very, very soon. Take care.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.